It's space weather. There's a ton of stuff to cover. Looking at the sun at 193 angstroms. The only features that we have are some plasma filaments, a coronal mass ejection or two, very small ones, and a soon-to-be Earth-facing coronal hole, which appears to already be magnetically connected to your head. Unless you're not on the Earth, then, you know, might not be connected then. Let's look at 304 angstroms in the southern area. Watch these filaments erupt. There's one that ejects from here, and one that ejects from over here. We'll let that play through. One that came from the solar south pole is partially Earth-facing. It doesn't look super extreme. Let's look at the magnetic lines in 171 angstroms. Not a lot of magnetic intensity with that incoming coronal hole. It doesn't look all that defined. And since it's Monday, let's look at CNBC.com markets. Stocks, okay, they were up on Friday. And what's the interesting stuff? Again, commodities. Commodities. Oil finally received an uptick after spending days below $50. Gold went up 10 bucks and silver went up 19 cents. Just show you the silver graph. As we bought people Christmas presents last year, 1 ounce silver coins, and it was over 16 bucks. So are we a buyer at $14.28? Oh yeah. By the way, we don't work for any bank or financial institution, and indeed we're not shilling for anybody. Just giving you actual facts here about actual important stuff and ways to hedge against the ridiculous inflation that's coming. Checking out spaceweathernews.com, look at the X-ray flux, quite flatlined. Now you can see there's a phi angle signal here on the ACE and the Discover. Magnetic connection with the incoming coronal hole. Coronal solar wind speed remains elevated at about 450. We'll look at the real time in a minute. Solar wind density has now dropped. Let's look at the real time. We'll leave links below for all this. This is updated on a 1-minute basis. So, last 12 hours, looking at, okay, the BTBZ is spiking around now, and the phi angle signal is, it looks like it's going away here. So we'll keep an eye on that. Solar wind density 8.17 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed still elevated at 452 kilometers per second. Not a super high wind speed, but significant. And it's got the KP index off the floor. Magnetometer is looking very choppy. Keeping an eye on that. It did get up to 150 nanotesla 2 days ago. Now, regarding the KP index, we were close but wrong. We expected that coronal hole wind stream to get the KP to 5. It only got to 4. Not a bad prediction. And now we've got a soaring electron flux. That's not super high. It does get over 10 to the 5th. And sometimes it stays there for an extended period. So this is a variable today Not sure what that's going to do. It is affected by the magnetic connection, and so that's something to keep an eye on. And speaking of ions, the ionosphere isn't all that charged. In fact, the discharging portion is looking a little bit anomalous. See those big red blobs? They're not usually that big. And this is odd too. The high frequency zone, like where the sun is located, also looking very weak, especially considering the elevated solar wind speed. There's your auroral forecasts, actually surprisingly intense. And let's move on to some other stuff. All right. Heading to globalincidentmap.com to look at the quakes for the last 8 hours, and whoops. Okay, so we've had so many small quakes in the past 3 hours that we're only getting 3 hours worth of data. Okay, so let's head to the USGS app to figure out what's going on with that. And we've got swarms. Okay, technical difficulties averted. And so we're wondering what's going on with that. Why so many? And what we're seeing is, first of all, we've got two very far south quakes. There's a 5.4 and another 5.4 between South Africa and Antarctica. And also a bit of earthquake swarming around Tonga and Fiji. Sorry, New Caledonia and Fiji. There's a 5.0. There's a 5.2. And I know there's been some deep ones at Fiji. There's a 5.0 at 522 kilometers, which means Fiji and Greece stay on alert. Jeez. And the massive swarm of quakes in Alaska continues. Just zoom in on it to give you an idea of the scale. How many earthquakes have happened there? Anyway, have an earthquake plan. And if you're in an earthquake-prone area, stay on alert. Let's head back to our Brave browser, which we enjoy very much. For all of you interested in the locations of the planets right now, head to theplanetstoday.com. It'll even animate this for you if you want to see where they'll be for the next week or so. You can see Venus and Mercury are now gaining on Earth. And Jupiter and Saturn are still on the opposite side of the Sun. Now, let's talk about global cooling and global warming. Well, it turns out that winter is deadlier than summer. And that is, at zero hedge, Britain's excess winter deaths soar to highest in over 20 years. So, yeah. By the way, the planet's not warming, it's cooling. So please don't, put me on a plane, tell me I'm going to Florida, and then drop me off in Alaska. Winter is always a period for increased work for health services. And what do we have here? Okay, the highest winter deaths in over 40 years. And look, it was at a solar minimum. 1975 to 76 was the last time. Let's just corroborate that data there for a minute. Let's go to spaceweathernews.com and look at the solar cycles. Okay, we've headed to solon.info here for the solar cycles. And what do you know? Just before 1980, Oh, what do you know? The last time they had this many deaths in wintertime in the UK was at another solar minimum. Anyway, the point is, a warming planet doesn't kill people. A colding planet does kill people, especially because of crop loss, but also because of all kinds of other things, like literally freezing to death. Also things like car accidents, power outages, all caused by a colder planet, not a warmer one. And while we're on the subject, Forbes.com recently came out with an article. Oh, I stand corrected. Forbes.com did not recently come out with an article. This is from May 31st, 2012. Let's close the freaking tab altogether. All right, moving on. For all of you who are on social media, I mean social media besides YouTube, that is, we highly recommend minds.com, as we have a page there. So feel free to visit us over there. Some content will be exclusive. We do make GIF animations and other things. So check us out over there. And just to give you a little bit of background on me, your host, Smash-O-Mash, I am a real human. We also have a Facebook page. Check that out. And for some reason, my TV just started playing for no apparent reason. Anyway, there's a Facebook page. And that's for Smash-O-Mash. We're in various groups. We post all of our videos. In addition to that, check it out. I'm a real human. There I am. My name's Daniel Nigro. I'm from Eastern Pennsylvania. 42 years old. And what's my vocation, you ask? Science. Here I am on the cycling team about 15 years ago. We're not going to leave links for this, but you'll be able to figure it out if you're on Facebook. By the way, we're not shilling for anybody. We don't work for the CIA. We don't work for a financial institution. We've never been on a government paycheck or accepted any taxpayer funds. We've never worked for a military, government, or police force in any capacity. No intelligence services, none of that. And all of our training is private, by the way. My vocation is part of the administrative department of a science company who does food safety testing, nutritional accuracy analysis, redundancy testing, and some chemical synthesis for other companies. We're not going to tell you who it is because we don't do these videos specifically as a function of our job. We just do these to get information out there. Now, let's take a look at the jet stream. We went to Tropical Tidbits here and we pulled up the worldwide jet stream, just to give you an idea of how this thing flows around. It's a great view. It shows you the pressure gradients. And you can see in the northern hemisphere there's quite large pressure gradients. Not quite as much in the southern hemisphere. But let's just let this play. This is the GFS forecast for upper level winds, just to show you how the jet stream moves around. Some of you may be interested, some of you may not. We have gotten requests for doing like southern hemispheric weather. There's your meridional jet stream flow. Normally it's a lot smoother. In fact, in the southern hemisphere you can see there's like a second jet stream there. Quite interesting. Not so good for the weather in the southern hemisphere. All right. Video's getting pretty long, so I think it's about time to wrap it up. And so thanks everybody for watching. The sound man has been fired. We apologize for any issues with the volume or audio quality, as they've now been solved. We are toning down the music a little bit. It did get a little over the top there. Sorry about that. Thank you, subscribers. Thank you, channels who are endorsing us. We really appreciate that. Please join us tomorrow, as we'll be doing the same thing all over again. Now remember, on your way staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun anyway. It is awesome. And it's in charge of all the weather on the planet.